The Red Raiders are headed down to Houston to face off against the undefeated Houston Cougars in the only matchup in the Big 12 this week with two undefeated teams. In today's video, we'll discuss the keys to the game for Texas Tech, including Behren Morton. Is he going to play? We have the latest from Pete Nakos, as well as the battle in the trenches between the Texas Tech defensive line and the Houston offensive line. Plus, this Texas Tech running back could be in for a big day. Let's get to it. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's Keys to the Game video. A lot to discuss, including the health of Behren Morton, which we will start out the video here in just a second with. But this matchup, the more that I look at it, Texas Tech has a severe advantage in a couple spots, and we will talk about that in today's video. But let's get to the news for the starting quarterback for Texas Tech. This from Pete Nakos. You see it on your screen right there. Texas Tech quarterback Behren Morton will start Saturday at Houston. Sources tell On3 he exited the Utah game with a neck injury, but just had a bye week to recover. Backup Will Hammond obviously finished off the 34-10 win over Utah earlier this month. This was something that we knew, but now it's out there in terms of the national stage. So we already talked about that here on the channel, that Joey McGuire said that, yeah, he thinks Behren Morton's going to play basically because he's practicing in full on Sunday leading into the Houston matchup. So no surprise there. And if you want more in terms of in-depth analysis when it comes to Behren Morton playing in this one and what I think he needs to do, be sure to go check out the previous video here on the channel when it comes to the Texas Tech game preview against the Houston Cougars. Now, there's a couple of things in this matchup that really stand out to me, and I think we really probably just need to start when it comes down to, well, what does Texas Tech do well and what does Houston do well? And let's go ahead and put it on your screen right there. You see it right here, passing offenses in the Big 12 and where they stand currently right now. Texas Tech, the best passing offense in the Big 12, and it's really not too close if you look at it. Over a 20-yard difference right there between Baylor and Texas Tech, or pretty close to a 20-yard difference, I should say. Now, Houston is the second best passing defense in the Big 12. This is going to be pivotal for Texas Tech. I will say this. I don't think Houston has played an offensive line as good as Texas Tech, and we know that Texas Tech's offensive line so far this year, I think a solid definition for this offensive line is solid. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been bad. It's just been kind of solid, right? When it comes down to it, and maybe average if you want to use that word as well. That's probably the best offensive line Houston has played this year, because the teams that they have played have not really had great offensive lines. And why is that beneficial to Texas Tech in this one? Well, Behren Morton's going to want to stretch the field, but I think maybe one of the most pivotal aspects of this game for Texas Tech when it comes to the offensive side of the football is not the passing game. I think Texas Tech's going to get their own there. And when you look at the thumbnail, I have a running back in Cam Dickey on it. The interesting part of this is I think both Texas Tech running backs are going to have big days. Now, the Houston defensive line is the interesting part from the standpoint they have two guys in the interior that are really, really good, right? So can they create havoc there? Well, Cam Dickey may be in the thumbnail. I think we might be in for a really big Jacoby Williams game. And the reason being is I think Texas Tech is going to have the ability to get outside the tackles and create space. Now, you're going to have to trust your wide receivers to really hold on to those blocks and not get penalties in that regard. But I really think this could be a Jacoby Williams game in the sense of getting him out into space, outside the tackles, right? And really allow him to show off that one-cut speed that really makes him one of the most elusive running backs in the Big 12. I think Cam Dickey's going to be a big part of the game plan as well, and I think so most notably in the red zone. But between the tackles, I think you're going to be able to run. It's going to be a little bit more difficult from the standpoint of that is where, Houston has their dudes per se on the defensive side. But I think Jacoby Williams could be in for a monster day down in Houston, and he could be a guy that we're talking about that has, that 9 to 12 carries for 65 to 75 yards and a couple of catches added on for over 100 total yards in this matchup. I think that's in the realm of possibilities, and he's a guy I'm monitoring in a place that I think Texas Tech can really exploit the Houston defense, most notably with those two running backs and Jacoby Williams at the forefront of it. Now, I really wanted to give a shout out to Rob Burrow on this one. He had a really cool stat over on Twitter. Shout out to him over at the Gambling Gauchos. I believe he does radio out there at the local level in terms of maybe it's 100.7 The Score. I used to work there, but I'm not sure if he's on 97.3 or 100.7 The Score. Either way, go listen to Rob. He's great at what he does. Okay. Anyway, according to PFF, Houston's left tackle has given up 0 sacks in 138 pass block reps this season. Even with 0 sacks, he leads the team in QB hits, pressures, and hurries, and has a pass block grade of 44.1. For those that don't know, that is ass. Just gotta but put it out there. Like Cam Ward called the Tennessee Titans. I would know I'm a Titans fan. It hurts to say, but just like Cam Ward said about the Titans, that's what that grade is. Okay. Houston's 3 running backs with pass pro grades are 29, 11, and 10. Why am I bringing this up? Key to the game. If you can get to Conner Weigman and keep him in the pocket, I just don't see the way that Houston wins this football game passing the football a ton. I just don't see it. And that's no disrespect. It's just the Texas Tech defensive line is thoroughly going to outclass every offensive line in the Big 12 if Utah was any indication, because that is the best offensive line Texas Tech may play all year, and that's included if Texas Tech plays in the college football playoff. That's how good that Utah offensive line is, and the Red Raiders made them look pedestrian at best for long periods of time in Salt Lake City. Okay, so now you have a Houston offensive line, and I'm not breaking any news here. The Texas Tech defensive line is good and should make a lot of offensive lines look bad. The thing is, in terms of keys to the game here, if you can keep Conner Weigman in the pocket, much like you did Devin Dampier, you're going to win this football game handily, okay? My score prediction was 34-17. If you keep Conner Weigman in the pocket and force him to be a passer, I undersold that, okay? I completely undersold it. I think there's going to be a couple of plays where Conner Weigman goes out and shows you why he was a former 5-star recruit. It's bound to happen, right? But if you can make him be a passer and really exploit the fact that you can keep him in the pocket while still getting pressure on him, good luck, Chuck. You're not going to have a great day at the office if you're the Houston Cougars. And I expect Texas Tech to do that quite a bit, not all the time. And maybe Weigman, exploits that defense in terms of going after him, and he makes a guy miss and picks up a key third down that ends up in Houston points. But overall, this Texas Tech defense is absolutely lethal. And if you can once again keep Conner Weigman in the pocket and make him a pocket passer, there is, I don't want to say no chance Houston wins, but there is a very, very small chance that the Cougars upset the Red Raiders in this one. Okay, we got Baron Morton starting. We've got the run game, right? We've got the defense playing well, obviously the defensive line. The part that I'm most interested in for Texas Tech in this one, maybe more so than anything, is actually Baron Morton passing the ball downfield. Houston, again, we just showed the stats. Let's go ahead and get them back up on your screen real quick for you guys in terms of where they rank from a passing defense perspective. It's 140, okay? I think the battle of the trenches is what I'm watching most because I think Texas Tech can dominate both sides of that and really just eviscerate the hope that Houston has of winning the football game. But if Houston is to win the football game, I think it's because Texas Tech does not win the wide receiver battle on the outside and create separation, and the Red Raiders become somewhat one-dimensional. I don't think that that's likely, but it is the matchup that I'm watching outside of the trenches the most is Caleb Payday Douglas and Reggie Virgil outside against the 2 Houston cornerbacks who have been really damn good this year, to be honest with you. Okay, that's going to be a matchup I'm watching for. They've got 5 total interceptions. Does this defense? I think Barron is going to be able to push the ball downfield. Those 2 guys can make some plays, though, on the outside. Can you be physical enough to win those matchups if you're Reggie Virgil and Caleb Payday Douglas against the second best passing defense in the Big 12? I think it's really one of the big question marks for me in this game. And I think that they do it, but do they do it with regularity or is it few and far between? Because if it's few and far between, I think that increases the chances of Houston winning this football game. But I think it'll fall somewhere in between. You're still going to have guys like Terrence Carter Jr., who was nursing an injury or, really going through some rehab aspects of things to make sure he's 100% for this Houston game, and it sounds like he will be. You'll have him at the tight end spot. You'll have Jacoby Williams. You'll have Coy Aiken. You got plenty of weapons, right? But in terms of a matchup and keys to the game element of this, if Texas Tech can win on the outside, right, in the passing game, I just don't see it if Houston wins the football game if they don't win that matchup in 3 or 4 others. So again, what I'm watching for most in terms of keys to the game in this one, outside of Baron Morton being healthy, the run game for Texas Tech, most notably outside the tackles. I think it's going to be a big game for Jacoby Williams. I think Cam Dickey's going to be heavily involved as well, but outside the tackles because Houston has 2 dudes in the middle of their defensive line. Elsewhere, the Texas Tech defensive line, if they can corral Conner Weigman in the pocket and force him to be a passer, good luck, Chuck. You're not going to have a great day at the office, as I mentioned, if you're Houston. And then the third and final key to the game, or maybe element of the game that I'm watching most, is the battle between Texas Tech's 2 starting outside wide receivers and Caleb Payday Douglas and Reggie Virgil against the 2 starting outside corners for the Houston secondary. It's going to be a good game. I expect a lot of Red Raiders to be down there. Again, my score prediction is 34-17. Let me know your score prediction down in the comments below. Should be a fun game out there. I think it's probably going to be 50% Red Raiders, maybe on the low end 40%, but Texas Tech may take over that stadium down there in Houston. We shall see, but it's in primetime on ESPN. I thoroughly expect Texas Tech to go down there and open up a can of whoop you-know-what on the Cougars. I really, truly do. And if last weekend Houston, what they did up in Corvallis is any indication of how these teams are kind of matched up against each other, well, we know what Texas Tech did to Oregon State in Lubbock, albeit, but they kind of put belt to you-know-what when it comes to Oregon and Oregon State, I should say. And Houston, they went to overtime against the Beavers. We shall see. But let me know your score prediction down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button to join the largest independent Texas Tech YouTube channel in the Red and Black Report. We're on our journey to 13K. Appreciate y'all tuning in to all the videos. Soon we'll have some basketball videos. By the time you guys hear this, it's October, baby. We got one more month until we got Grant McCaslin, JT Toppin, Christian Anderson, Lawan Watts, Tyree Bryan, Jalen Petty, Luke Bamboye. Oh, my. Your Texas Tech Red Raiders are going to be lethal on the hardwood, just like they're lethal on the gridiron. If you want everything you need to know about Texas Tech football or men's basketball, whether it's in the portal, high school recruiting, breaking news, anything you need, we've got you covered right here on the Red and Black Report. All right, I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.